So Ubisoft is shutting down some of its studios and canceling a couple of projects. Mr. I hope I'm not butchering this name. Yves Guillemot is the CEO and the founder of Ubisoft, which is pretty cool. And to go through some of his words and talk a little bit about, game development as an industry at a high level. Now, he pretty much stated that, the triple industry has become more selective and more competitive with like rising development costs. And he's right. He's right. And one of the reasons why the development costs in general are rising is because games today tend to have a lot more complex systems being added to them because you have different shop systems, progression systems. A lot of the games now that investors want to put money into have to have a multiplayer component. Getting funding for a game with a multiplayer component is significantly easier than getting funding for a game which is like, oh yeah, this is like a single player game where you'll only make money from it once. And once you're done making money from it once, it's done, which makes a lot of sense. So yeah, things like for lack of a better word, I love the way he stated financial potential. That's true. Games with multiplayer and games as a service tend to have a much higher earning potential than games which would need smaller teams like single player games and those kinds of experiences. And Ubisoft is not a small company. I think they have what 17,000 employees around the entire world, at least before the layoffs. So, in order to run an operation that big, you need to be making pretty massive profits. Yep, and it's stated over here. So it's the goal is to transform Ubisoft's operating model to produce exceptional quality on two pillars of the strategy. And those two pillars are open world adventures. So open world adventures need quite a bit of money because the quests, the density of quests, the number of quests are always high. More quests means more animation, more voice acting, more 3D modeling, more rigging, more particle effects. And also, you need to optimize. Even having an open world adventure that a lot of people say, oh, the performance isn't that great. Even to have not so great performance in an open world needs quite a bit of optimization and Q&A. And the second pillar being GaaS, or games as a service native experiences. So, and it will go back to what I was saying earlier. At the end of the day, if I'm, let's say, if making a game costs like $35 million, just making a base, I would rather, or okay, not me personally, me I personally prefer single player games, but if I was just an investor and I didn't care about anything else but making money, games as a service is really the way to go, simply because you don't make money once, you make money continuously as long as the game is has an audience and is loved by that audience enough for them to pay money into it. That's for skins, because making a skin is cheap, and over the lifetime of a games as a service, players will end up spending more money than just paying once for a game like a single player game or a one-off purchase kind of game. There's a lot more that he goes through, but I don't know if any of this is actually meaningful. For example, when it states that at the center is transformation of our creative houses, integrated business units, combining production. Okay, so a lot of this is basically corporate speak, but in real reality, I don't think this is going to make a big difference in how the company is organized. Maybe perhaps more focus, in other words, having one studio focused on a single, but they've already done that. I think a lot of this is just to appease shareholders and demonstrate, like, yeah, they're on top of it. The truth is, managing shareholder value is a lot of hard work. And the truth is, to sit down with someone and just show them code and say, hey, this is how we are optimizing our game. we are making the networking better, is a lot harder to do than just stating how you're reorganizing the business units and combining production and publishing to unify the gamer relationship. But these are words just put there in order to smoothen out the conversation with shareholders, which is totally fine. That's one of the prices you have to pay for running a truly massive business as Ubisoft is. I can also appreciate when he mentions, so to put the creative houses in the best conditions to succeed, we decided to refocus our portfolio. Basically, 3-year roadmap, cost reductions, in other words, less people. Ubisoft, set aside all the hate it has gotten, Ubisoft has had the problem of overhiring because a lot of the problems with their most recent games, whether it's AI breaking or bad gameplay isn't really something that comes up because the CEO has made a bad decision. It's more of the developers themselves, especially in single player titles. It's the lack of love and attention to detail, whether it's project management or it's the actual devs doing the coding. Uh, there's a lot of that, and a lot of that comes from overhiring people. So needing to clean house a bit and say, look, the art department needs 15 people. We have 36, and of those 36, too many of them were just brought on in a rush without having clearly defined roles. And people are, if you have too many people marching in different directions, they're going to bump into each other and step on each other's toes. So probably for Ubisoft, the company, having maybe 20-30% fewer people working in the organization developing the games can actually lead to more. I've had one time when I was working on a magazine project. I was way younger. This was like 11 years ago. Actually, probably more than 11. And two people made a magazine in 2 weeks, right? Because I was doing design and basically, I was basically no editing. Okay, I basically did design and mockup. And I had another friend of mine also writing articles, and I also wrote some articles. And so essentially, it ended up being that, hey, two people working together for 2 weeks made and printed out a magazine, which was really cool. So we had this idea of like increasing the number of people. And then we thought, okay, so for the second edition, we're going to have 12 people on. Like, we need more writers. We can do this faster. We can do it better. Funny thing is, after 5 months with 12 people, we had zero magazine. We actually had like some articles in, and we had people like driving to different places for interviews. But like fundamentally, we had a zero magazine after 5 months. And this was an early lesson to me that having more people on a project doesn't mean it's going to get done faster. Now, there are a couple of other problems with this project later, but I'll probably cover those another day. But fundamentally, more people on a project doesn't mean that the project is going to get done faster or better. Anyway, and after that, it goes into more corporate speak. The reset will strengthen the group and enable it to renew with sustainable growth and cash generation. Ubisoft is entering a new phase, one designed to reclaim creative leadership and build value for players and stakeholders. Or these are non-statements, but as I said, just dealing with your investors, which is part of business. But yeah, at the end of the day, AAA gaming companies will continue to function like AAA gaming companies. I think in the literally just in 2026, we've seen some pretty big layoffs from Ubisoft and Rockstar so far. So this is to be expected. At the end of the day, even if you're part of a division which falls apart or simply looks like what you're working on isn't going to make money, you're pretty likely to get fired. We've also seen like what NetherRealm Studios coming up for sale. It's been a challenging year for AAA. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents based off what I think is going on. I'm not there in the board meetings, so I can't tell you with 100% certainty. But the one cool thing is this, one of the reasons why I chose to go all in on indie is because I don't like getting fired. I actually feel pretty terrible when I get fired. I feel bad. I would rather have 100% control over $50,000 other than having no control over 200,000. It's just how I feel personally. But given the opportunity, I think that you should still try to get a job in a big studio because your risk metrics are really low. And if you're someone who knows how to like just put their head down, do the work, shake hands, and be nice to people, and show that, look, you're willing to be an effective part of the machine, there's a lot of money to be made in quality development work at a big studio. So don't be too taken aback by the firings. Firings are universal. And yeah, but beside that, hey, you have a good week ahead, and I wish you well.